Sure. I'll talk it out.
Yeah, let's just have a conversation.
Track 3.
Better not be fucking Dave Matthews Band.
Okay. Those of you who don't want to be a part of this can leave now.
Derek, please listen to me.
But if you choose to stay, which it seems like you guys are choosing,
Derek, please.
you understand and agree to the following terms and conditions.
Derek!
1.
Derek, this is the virus.
You hereby waive your right
Derek, please.
to your own personal bodily integrity.
This is not you.
2.
I'm a licensed...
Per the state versus Neville Reed, my colleague and I will not be held criminally liable for any felony or misdemeanor that you may be a victim of, including, but not limited to, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, destruction of property, mayhem, and first-degree murder. And 3, terms and conditions may change or be updated whenever the fuck I want! Consider yourselves notified.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but 2 things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
What was that ruckus? What ruckus? I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Describe the ruckus, sir.
Does this mean we're not friends anymore? I'm in my prime.
Hey, Mike. Ain't it cool?
First you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow. Good. Bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis.
And DJ Neko.
Here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with another classic reflections. This time doing a little bit different. It's a special edition version. Usually we will take an album that we really like or one that I've selected that I really like, and we'll go through it.
I picked a couple.
Yeah. But that first record from there, you didn't really know anything about them, but that kind of
opened up a whole thing because we got to, interview them and we listened to their entire album. And, I like it when you turn me on to new music because I know, I just don't have a lot of music listening time. So when you're like, here's something brand new or something that you haven't heard, I like to take a listen. So
yeah, and eventually we'll get to another one of those type of records. I mean, this record I know that she's not heard, but this is going to be probably where Neko is going to want to claw my eyes out because this is the very type of black metal she really has no interest in.
No, this is the black metal that I...
At the Bath and Immoral, she's more in that line with Demi Borgir and stuff like that. But, the thing is about this particular record, which I do think Neko would find very interesting, is just the mystique and the reputation the band has for what they were doing. There's a lot of controversy.
Controversy.
So basically, this is about Velvet Cocoon's Guinevere's record from 2004. Now, the band had been around since 2002 and probably from some rumors going back to 96, but they didn't really release anything until 2002. And actually, there was a gentleman who I knew from Australia who kind of turned me on to this band back way back when.
Dane?
Yep, it was Dane, who had a big habit, even introduced me to the Ruins of Beveras and bands like that. So
Dane was great for that.
yeah,
I know,
he
like,
always like the first one to discover these bands coming out of the woodwork, and this was one of those projects. But Velvet Cocoon is a black metal hoax band from Portland, Oregon. Now, I say that lightly because apparently over the last 3 or 4 records, they kind of got more serious into the writing, but not without controversy. So, but what we're going to do this time, and I don't know if this is going to be a format we go with in the future. I think I kind of want to stick to what we were initially doing with like just listening to each track and commenting. But this is more of like we're actually going to be reacting to a video where another guy is explaining some of the history about the band and what the controversies all are, which I think is kind of cool, and it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about it, because it was a really big deal within the black metal community about how even I, like, they would Velvet Cocoon release a record, and I go listen to it and they're like, oh, this is pretty good, and then you find out that it was actually someone else's material. So that's what one thing that they're kind of known for, is plagiarizing other bands and
then just re-releasing it under their name.
yeah, they'd make up their own album artwork and then put the brand on it and then stick the music with the little album art and stick it out there. Now, granted, this wasn't a time where they would print this stuff. It was never physical. It was always digital. But you would see guys on downloading sites. It's like, I got the new Velvet Cocoon. Check this shit out. And if you turn out to be a whole different band, their actual music. So it led to a lot of like hate towards the band, which makes sense. You're not doing shit yourself. You're plagiarizing. But eventually, even when they got around to making their own music, like with Genevieve, like it makes sense, because they're not half bad for what they're doing. I don't know if I really look back on this album as fondly as I once did, because this type of black metal doesn't really resonate with me much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But in the early 2000s, when I was kind of diving into all that, I was newly with Neko at the time. But that was just something I was kind of getting into at the time, was this as much black metal as I could. I was like, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I do remember that. You were really kind of going more into the black metal side. And I think it's when I learned I was not a huge fan of black metal, because
just the cans.
I that's what it is. And I feel like at that time period, which, is 20 some years ago now, when we start talking about that, during that early 2000s time period, people were like, it's not true unless it's like poorly produced and, it has that specific sound. And then I think Death Cult Armageddon came out.
Dimmu, yeah.
And it was like, well.
And that's kind of the thing, is when black metal, like in that case, symphonic black metal started getting more polished. It didn't sound like it was recorded in a basement. It was like, we got good production on this. And so, that's sort of how they expanded into other fans of the genre in general. Like even some of the more traditional bands like Marduk and stuff like that would start doing more polished work. And it's like, some people didn't really like it, obviously, but
that's when I really started liking it, because I'm like, your product should sound good, Well,
I mean, look at what Abat did. We just saw them at MDF, and not knowing how it would be translated. Now, granted, I heard the records and they were very polished, so you're like, oh, this is good shit. It sounded like the record. Like when he played live, it sounded booming. Like it was huge.
They had such an amazing audio setup this year. We're still on the fence about going next year, and we did the same thing last year, waited till the last minute, but guess what? We got tickets.
Worked out okay.
We always, like, I know it sounds terrible for venues and for bands who are selling tickets, but there's always somebody who needs to sell their ticket at the last minute for some reason. And we figured it out. And then they opened up a few more tickets, and we knew where we wanted to go and what we wanted to see. So we're like, all right, we're not buying the all venue pass. We're going to buy the outdoor pass.
It just came down to certain bands, which, which is good for MDF, because they started to kind of like group them accordingly. So obviously there was like a couple shows I wouldn't mind seeing, but I'm not going to pay another $150 for that one ticket. It just makes no sense.
I honestly,
But most of the general
liked,
stuff that we liked was in the main festival area.
last year was absolute perfection. Like the way it was set up, they had the vendor alley where everybody had all their stuff. They had two separate sections that were outdoors. One was considered one thing, one was considered another thing, two separate tickets. They had the indoor venues that I don't even think we went to an indoor venue, did we?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, there have been years where we always bought the all
Because what they were
access.
doing, we just went from one end to the other because they were doing the outside stuff. So.
And we were the way that we were situated was kind of in between two buildings, so the sun wasn't fully beating on you all day.
Yeah.
And there were lots of little restaurants around where you could go sit in the shade and cool off if you needed to.
Whatever.
So I want to say to the Maryland Death Fest coordinators and promoters and everybody, I don't know if you listened to me personally, you probably didn't, but everything that I
probably listen to everybody, their 2 cents.
Because this was done the best way that we've seen in a long time. I mean, there was at one point where they didn't have really an outdoor, essence, because they were doing it between the two indoor venues. And then there's that stage that's outside that they had a couple of things. And I liked that year too, but they expanded it and they shut down streets. Like,
well,
thank you.
If they listen at all and they end up bringing Lacathia Flame doing the Elvin Frisk record, I will definitely be going for at least that one day, because that's the one band that I really want to see them bring back, because they only did one record, which was amazing. But yeah, who knows if they're able to even swing that. But anyway,
I mean,
this type of music's more of inside,
and that's what they've
dark.
done.
Yeah, well, but this is not the type you would put outside with the rest.
Yeah, that's what they've done. That's why they have indoor venues. And who have we seen at MDF that is a nice black metal?
I think
I am too, because we
saw Take, but that was outside. That was a big mistake. They should have put him inside. But that was a really good show. Who was it? Samuel was outside. This is when they were still at Edison a lot. We saw most of them there. I don't think we've worried about when they switched over back to Ramshead. I don't think we worried too much about seeing black metal bands at that point.
But we had one day at Ramshead. I forgot what year it was. I think Daniel was actually here. And it was the infamous MDF 2018, and that was a good. We had a bunch of our friends here, and the year that I got so drunk that I forgot how to read, which led to that text thread that we all had. But we were indoors a lot. Like, they had Soundstage was doing a lot of the death, speed kind of metal, but then in Ramshead, because it's kind of like narrow and tall, you can kind of get that ambiance.
Well, that's where they had ruins, and you were kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna step out.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's when it happened. That's when I went and got drunk, and I lost Daniel. I lost myself, and
yeah, none of them could find the fuck where they were. Fucking Herman was trashed. Like, everybody was just gone. Like, I'm the only one that's driving and sober, and I'm like,
oh, that's because you had surgery and you weren't allowed to drink. That's why. That is why you were not drinking anything. He's not even like a huge
I wouldn't do it anyway, because
either.
I'm the only one driving. Like,
but he's not a huge drinker anyway. But like, they were like very specific after his surgery back then. 1 year, no alcohol. You need to like let your stomach heal. And
all right.
Well, anyway, let's get back to this. I'm sorry, I'm such a tangent girl. Give me like a synopsis of what you found.
Well, Velvet Cocoon is their sound is very dirty, gritty, sometimes ambient a little bit. It's raspy. It's totally the stuff I know you do not like. And like I said, I still think this album's very good. This style of music, I don't find myself listening to this stuff much anymore. Usually I'm more into modern enslaved. Even if Demu would still put out another record, I'd probably go and listen to it, even though I think Gawler just left to go back to another Old Man's Child record, which I'm waiting for on that, which is still very good stuff. But this is the more dirty and grimy stuff that, most of the diehard black metal elites enjoy. But
so how far back? You said they go,
Well, they claim that they
To
alleged to be formed in
96.
'96, but their first release, Dextronaut, didn't come out until 2002. But again, there's always been this like, well, is that really their shit, or are they taking it from someone else? But supposedly, according to the Metal Archives and just information, that is a legitimate release. Same with this one here with Genevieve. So I'm going to play the first track I ever heard from. It was like a one song I downloaded off the internet at the time because Dane suggested it. And it's called Avalon Polo. So we're going to let y'all listen to this, and then we'll kind of get some feedback from Neko. I've only got 2 tracks I'm going to play from the album because, like I said, we're going to have a video. We're going to talk about their history a little bit.
And I really want to hear about that.
That's going to be the more crux of what we want to talk about here today. So to introduce Neko to Velvet Cocoon, this is Avalon Polo.
All right, so far, I always like the nice intro, and what I always say.
It's yeah, you hear it in the background. That's not what they want.
That they don't want that. They want to take it in. They want to go sailing and digging the vibe. And I think that's a lot of
Well, I mean, if you took the singing out, which you barely hear really, because the whole story, it sounds pretty cool. Let's do that.
that vibe. And I like all those things. Yes, it's really shocked. I like them so much.
And they're very funny. They're amazing.
I feel like the listeners
It would be interesting to see if it's like the budget that's out, like how much they're trying to do all that nice stuff behind it. Sometimes on playback, they get quite as loud, so I just hope it's off. Oh, no, it's fine because you can pause or whatever, but it's pretty much over.
So what I was saying, I don't know. I have a loud voice, so maybe they did hear over the music for me. But you know, when I first met DJ Anubis in 2002, and like, you know, late 90s, a lot of the people and the guys that I knew, their goal was to create a really amazing sound system in their cars. DJ Anubis had a really cool sound system, but now like we get cars that are already built in with surround sound and bass and everything. So it kind of like fizzled out. It was a hobby for a long time. And, you know, I met him. He had this 100 disc CD changer or something. And we would go through his music all the time. And when you would hear the black metal, and you'd hear it in like what's supposed to be amazing sound with the bass and the amps and multiple speakers that he had replaced and put in his vehicle. And I hear something that I'm like, this could be so good if it didn't sound like crap.
Well, before we get into the video, just a little bit more notes here.
Okay.
At least 15 alleged releases in Velvet Cocoon's discography are known to have been faked. While many of Velvet Cocoon's claimed releases simply never existed, others, particularly their non-metal releases, were full albums comprised of stolen music. The shoegaze demo from How the Last Day Came and Stayed, then faded into Simulated Rain.
What was it called? How what?
How the Last Day Came and Stayed, then when faded into Simulated Rain, was almost entirely stolen from Korova's Shipwrecks and Russian Roulette. While the Dizzy from Eternity demo is taken from My Violent Ego's Clicks and Hisses.
So how did they find this out? Because those are some
a
little bit more obscure bands.
Well, I think that's what they were trying to go for. Basically, this was more done by the original guy, Josh, who was a big part of the band. He was the one who was kind of doing this, and he would push those as legitimate Velvet Cocoon releases.
Was he just trying to get like clicks?
Well, yeah, it's like sort of like, do you remember the story of that guy that made up that band and he went on tour promising that he was going to, remember it's a lot.
That was a document. That was a crazy document.
So,
he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, this is probably the same thing. Maybe not on that level. Like you're never going to get like a big black metal sell out stadium type of thing, but maybe the attention was what he wanted. However, if there's people that listen to similar shit that you do, such as those bands, they're going to say, no,
I've heard this before.
I have this record. This is not them.
So I'm looking just like at Velvet Cocoon online. Like there's people selling their CDs.
Well, they have 4 legitimate records that at least that we know that are legitimate. Like I said, most of the other ones that were pushed a lot of times were caught as plagiarized other material. But let's watch the video. We'll react to it and see how this guy breaks it down.
It might have to be like
2024. I found myself doing a lot of videos within the topics of urban legends and wild stories that is attached with extreme music. Now entering 2025, I'll continue that spree and talk about a music project that's impossible to talk about without bringing up all of the stories, the plagiarism, and hoaxes attached with it. That being Velvet Cocoon. Before I get into the discussion of Velvet Cocoon, just know that this project has been documented by a lot of different people throughout the years when it started, from pages on Wikipedia, the Metal Archives, to even a website called Velvet Cocoon Archived.
He makes a great point because there are so many things out there, even Wikipedia, where you can just write whatever you want.
Yeah.
So he makes a really great point there.
Yeah.
Which has basically just documented every little thing that this project has lied about or plagiarized from its inception. Even my friend Dante Dagger did a video all about Velvet Cocoon's hoaxes a while back, which I'll have a link in the description to where you can watch his video. Very well done. And I'll be echoing some of the points that he brought up here. So even though I'm not adding anything new to the conversation...
I know, right? Like that's insane.
Look at ours. Ours is like 4 cubes, not even full. So we have a similar.
You could tell his go down further, so it's not like it's just 4. So he's probably got like 8. Like
so ours is a 6 cube standard that a lot of vinyl collectors get, and we have 4 cubes, not even fully.
It's too bad though. Like he's got this album here that he's showing on the front. He should have just picked up one of the Velvet Cocoon ones and put it there. You know, been kind of nice, but. Outside,
we're gonna have to start checking out the. There is 2 record stores around here that are in our area, and then you have to go like further up to the college areas, like near Delaware State. But I am impressed with his record collection already. So kudos to you,
Conversation with Velvet Cocoon. It's just, I've always wanted to do my own personal video on it, mainly because it's fascinated me so much just how deep the rabbit hole goes with this project in terms of lies and hoaxes attached with it, that you really start having a very difficult time figuring out what's even true about it. For those who are unaware, Velvet Cocoon is a black metal band that formed in Portland, Oregon. It's mainly fronted by multi-instrumentalist Joshua Lobb, who goes by the stage name SGL. And well, that's basically as deep of concrete information that we have about Velvet Cocoon that's true. Typically when I do the introduction for bands or artists, I bring up the years when they formed and the years that they were active. Quite surface level stuff. Yet when it comes to Velvet Cocoon, that information, as basic as it is quite scattered. Because on one hand, by Velvet Cocoon, an interview that they did for Full Moon Productions, a label that they would be signed to around 2004, they did an interview stating that they formed in the year 1996.
I did need to state this. So this video, because I'll put the original video in the description box, but this is from a guy named, his YouTube name is Wyatt X Him. So just so you guys know who this is, I want to give him a shout out for the video that we're reacting to.
Yes, we love you. We love your music collection, and we're loving the insight.
However, their first release, Dextronaut, wouldn't be released to the public until the year 2002, which makes a lot of people skeptical.
So I'm wondering, I get what he's saying, it makes people skeptical, but I'm wondering if the frontman is the person who, he's a multi-instrumentalist. Maybe that was something that he was working on for a long time. And maybe, they started in 1996, and maybe it was a thing like he was in high school and just fooling around with things.
Well, that's how a lot of it starts. I mean, a lot of times, even somebody like Amon Amarth, their first record wasn't until like 96. But they had been performing like together since like 92 or 93.
And just think of like some of our friends that we know, like Desolus, performing before they fully released an album.
Yeah.
So
Nomos had like 2 or 3 demos before they even put out their first record.
And they were touring. So like that happens with bands. So I totally get saying, we formed. Maybe he was SGL. What is that? What he called himself? SGL. Maybe SGL started working on Velvet Cocoon in 96. All right, on pause.
Yeah. So, I think he's got a couple of different names. He actually goes by Josh and Claire. Cassius as well. So.
Cassius?
Cassius, yeah.
I kind of like Cassius.
I believe
like Cassius
that
Clay?
Velvet Cocoon actually formed in the year 2001. I know I'm jumping to conclusions already this early on, but if you know of Velvet Cocoon and you read upon their history and just the laundry list of lies and hoaxes attached with it, you get to a point where you really need to start questioning everything about them. And as basic as it is for the information of when the years they were active, it is quite significant to Velvet Cocoon with the aura, image, and persona they're trying to convey to their audience. Because they state that they started out in the year 1996 and not the year 2001. And why is that significant? Because 1996 is the year when the whole second wave black metal boom was happening all over Europe, where black metal was really flourishing and blossoming.
So he might be saying that he's trying to glom on to that boom.
Oh, of course.
They're like kind of, faking their history to just kind of be like, oh yeah, we were totally part of the 96, second wave black metal. So
trying to put his hooks into the birth. Yeah.
Yeah, I
metal
dig it.
fans. And since Velvet Cocoon wants to look more true to the black metal purists, being formed in the year 1996, they
And that's one of the things that Dane always loved about that time period when he was introduced to me. She was like, dude, you got to hear this band. No one knows of them. And, of course, he's like, Velvet Cocoon, dude, these guys are great. And so obviously, the band goes on and dupes a lot of people in the process. So.
I think that it's I love it.
Well, it is funny because for a lot of purists, it's like they got duped by someone pretending to be something they weren't.
I'm looking at my favorite place in the world, Reddit, where people are mean as hell. And it's like, in the metal group, I would like to speak to a fan of Velvet Cocoon for a second. I've never gotten into this project, but what is the real project? What the hell is going on? Is this new album legitimate, or are those fake black metal albums that is traded like currency? And that brings up a good thing. Like, maybe that's what it was, is they were trying to like slip their name because of the time period, like that second wave. They wanted to like slip themselves into it so bad that they started like.
Yeah, and I think there was even a mention from one of the members. I don't know if it was Josh or somebody else, but they were like, the reality was I didn't really know how to play guitar all that well. So, he kind of like hated going back to some of those earlier records that was legitimately their stuff. And it's like, but now obviously as time has gone on, like they haven't done a record since 2009. They're still supposedly active, but they haven't done anything since 2009. So obviously I think if he's still working on his technique, he's probably a lot better now than he ever was back then. But at the time,
made up stories of ultra left eco-fascisms, diesel harps, countless trips on hallucinogenic drugs.
Yeah, their themes are drug trips, nautical themes, and esotericism. So
look more authentic, thus they give off more of that true persona that they're really trying to persuade to their audience. However, in the same year of 2004, Velvet Cocoon did an interview for Metal Crypt. And in this interview, they talk about their debut full-length album, Genevieve, which already is wrong considering that they completely ignored their real first album, Dextronaut.
So, the diesel harp is something that they said that they came up with. And you say, what is a diesel harp? A harp powered by a diesel engine fueled by a tank the size of a small fish aquarium filled with salt water from the sea and droplets of human blood.
Yeah, it's just total fucking.
It's like it's theatrics.
Yes,
it's what it is. I have a heart for the theatrics. So why would they not play up on their theatrics instead of plagiarizing people? Is my question.
The funny thing is, so of the 4 records that are supposedly legit, Dextronaut got like around 73% with Metal Archives. Guinevere, the one that we're talking now, got about 82%, and North Suite, which was still very good, did 96% for that one. And then Pa Opo PR33 was the 2009 release for 73%. So they have around 70 or 80% for their records. But again, there's always going to be this thought like, is this stuff just from a band no one knows of that doesn't know they're ripping them off? Like,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
you're thinking that people they're going even deeper. Like they're going to like underground clubs, stealing their music.
And that's the one thing about this guy is that you've built this aura around yourself. So no matter if you're legit or not, you're always going to be talked about because people are always going to be guessing what is real, what isn't.
It says they're the master trolls of the century.
Yes.
All I know is the new record out by them, which we're talking about Genevieve, the band claims is a fake and is not their album, but it sounds exactly like.
Yeah. So they know how to play the fiddle to everybody.
So that's fine though. Play that. Look, think of some other bands that,
if you want to stand
like Immortal. Think about other bands that play out. Like you don't have to be a plagiarizing.
Well, no, I mean, look at what's the band? I can't think of it right off the bat, but they did it's another one man project, and what they did was they did a collaboration with Sono. That was that drone band that Jason was really into for a while. And on one of their songs, which is a good song, by the way, the singer from this other black metal band said that he recorded his vocals while laying in a casket, closed casket. So he was inside the casket singing his lyrics.
Okay.
Now, whether or not that's true,
that would be cool.
But if you're adding mystique to both this black metal person, which already has mystique around it, and then the band Sono, which they're always in like cloaks, obviously that makes it even seem more interesting. And sort of Velvet Cocoon is kind of playing off of that, as you said, the theatrics on a different type of level.
Truth and fiction in Portland. Since Ghost, Marduk, and others have found their way into the pages of popular magazines, I can't lose a chance to write a tribute about the article about the band whose music and concept I highly appreciate, Velvet Cocoon, and the later stage of the same individual's work, Claire Cassis.
Mm-hmm.
So does Claire Cassis go by is that an individual project or?
I don't know. It could be. I think I did see that it was listed as some other music. Yeah, so there is some other stuff under that name, which is ambient black metal, which would make sense because it fits a little bit to what they're doing with Velvet.
So I want to hear more. I forgot what the guy's name was.
Wyatt X him.
So I want to hear more from Wyatt about the controversy, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for controversy.
I'm pretty sure there's a reason for that, which I'll talk about later on in this video. Regardless, though, they talk about Genevieve. And in this interview, they're asked as to why they would form in the year 1996, but remain silent for 8 years before releasing material to the public, as Genevieve came out in the year 2004. And they responded back stating that supposedly, again, since they formed in the year 1996, they didn't want to release Genevieve to the public because they didn't want to do it for street cred, basically, and the black metal scene, and they didn't want to be compared to lowlifes like black metal bands such as Moonblood or Nagaroth, which it's like, why would you bring that up in the interview? If anything, I'm immediately now thinking how similar they sound to Moonblood and Nagaroth. So again, it ties really kind of back into that point where I really do feel like they're trying to perceive themselves to the audience that they are authentic, being in that year of 1996 when they formed. I know it seems like I'm spending a lot of time.
I'm agreeing with him right here, because that's what they're trying to do. They want to be in that original era, so they're saying we formed in 96, but we're not posers. Like,
well, and that's a good point. Like during that time, that late 90s to early 2000s was really a time when black metal was all about who was more truer than the next.
I remember that. Yeah. I really, and I know it was, I was getting it kind of like later on. Like I was not a huge like black metal follower. So I was getting kind of like dribs and drabs through you and through our friends. And you got to remember back in 2000.
I mean, it was getting so crazy that even they were taking shots at the legends like Mayhem or Dark Throne or Emperor. Like they were like, no, we're way better than these guys. You know, we're totally cult, you know.
And then remember, what's his face? Oh my God, the crazy guy who killed the guy.
Varg.
Yeah, Varg. That's all happening all at the same time. I Varg used to have a YouTube channel. I don't think he has it anymore, but he's like living off the grid. And anyway, but I agree with Wyatt here, where do you believe they formed in 96, or are they saying they formed in 96 because they want the true cred?
They're like the masters of disinformation. Like you have no idea what's true or what's not.
They're flushing down the pipe.
Yeah.
On just this one particular aspect. But trust me, layer upon layer you go through at Velvet Cocoon, everything is just so fabricated into this aura that they're trying to create to this audience that something as basic as the years of when they were active is stuff that still needs to be questioned. Regardless, however, getting back on track here and talking about Velvet Cocoon's discography, we're going to discuss their real first album, that being Dextronaut. Released in the year 2002, and originally a download-only album put out by a label called Grimm Productions, which is a non-existent, made-up label by the band to play into the joke of this release. And I do feel like as to why Velvet Cocoon ignored...
Would you like to, we could do that if you want. Be Metal Tavern Productions, like... New release from
No,
Metal
actually,
Tavern
if I was
Productions.
gonna do like a label, like I thought about this, if I was gonna sell CDs and stuff, kind of like Chris Hupp or how other people I knew do that stuff. But I just do it on there, like basically Goliath Records. That's what I would.
Goliath.
Yeah.
Why Goliath?
I like the name.
Proceed, Wyatt.
This release, when they started doing interviews in 2004, is this was the time when Velvet Cocoon was...
I mean, I chose Goliath because, Empire Records was taken in a movie, so...
Empire Records was shot in our new home state, Delaware.
Do you remember who the purple shirt dude was? The real one, famous one that Zellweger was fucking?
No, I don't.
He's the dude from Grease, too. The main dude on the bike.
Oh, I don't... No.
A joke band. The play on joke with this album is that everything utilizes the word grim. From the made-up label name, Grimm Productions, to the track listing, if you see it all, every single song title features the word grim.
You got Through the Ice Caverns of Grimness and Frost, Grim Chariots, Symphonaire des Grimm.
Maybe they're the Grim Reaper. I don't
Grimmica and Helveta.
Wait a minute.
Tale of Grimness.
Grimmica and Helveta, are they talking about fucking fonts? I
don't know, but I think that some of this is a shot at Immortal because they always had Grim in some of their titles too. So I think that's sort of some of this is Grim Icicles of Misanthropy, Grim Opus.
But Immortal was very original, and maybe they're just
Well, again, this is the it's hard to get what they're trying to do. Are they trying to be a serious band, or are they just trying to poke fun at the genre? Because when Wyatt says, yeah, they're big trolls of people, they've trolled people pretending they were something they weren't.
Did you hear that?
Probably ice falling. It's probably melting.
Okay.
In some kind of a way featured in the track name to make fun of and poke holes at all the cliches that you would find in black metal with the overusage of the word grim, to even Joshua Loeb's stage name, that being SGL.
Satire. That's where they're starting to call them fake and a hoax and satirical.
So that's the thing. Is this guy who made 4 different records that supposedly are legit, not counting the 15 other ones that were all plagiarized, is he just doing it to poke fun at the black metal genre, or is it just some sort of attention? Is it just an act? Is it a way to get people to pay attention to his project?
That is interesting.
The original acronym for it was Sir Grimalot. It is worth noting that they would re-release and remaster the album Dextronaut in the year 2006, only now the song titles are changed to a more serious tone with its titles, and the album still runs the exact same, the only difference being that it would include a second track called December Star Embassy, consisting of 3 songs, all roughly around 20 minutes and over, that are all just ambient tracks to give Velvet Cocoon a much more serious tone. Regardless, when you listen to the original Dextronaut that was released in 2002, it's very reminiscent of what you would get from the second wave black metal sound. It's very amateurish and lo-fi in terms of its production value. Songwriting, again, is very bare bones, not much really happening other than, you got the tremolo pick guitars, blast beats, and very scratchy, raspy vocals smeared over everything. That is really just paying homage to what you would come to expect within black metal. So again, Velvet Cocoon has always personally reminded me, regardless of what direction they take, of something really similar to that of Burzum. Fast forward 2 years to 2004, and this is where we get technically Velvet Cocoon's second full-length album, but what Velvet Cocoon considers to be their first serious full-length album, that being Genevieve, or the alternative title, Genevieve, December Star Embassy, Volume 2. Before I get into all of the plagiarism, hoaxes, and
No, I want to hear about the
attached
plagiarism. That's what I'm here for, Wyatt. I want the plagiarism.
Patience, young one.
with the lore of this band from here on out with this album, I do want to state that overall this album is very well done. I know a lot of people just label Velvet Cocoon that it's just a bunch of BS. They all faked everything, why even bother with them? And what always brings me back to them is, yeah, the discussion of all of the hoaxes is interesting and fun to dive into, but the music still is very well crafted. I mean that wholeheartedly. When it comes to how they create their music, of blending very drony, dissonant atmosphere with harsh ambience with black metal, I would state that the quality of this album is up there with the likes of Burzum, early Wolves in the Throne Room, Leviathan, and even Paysage d'Hiver. But as I stated earlier in this video, this is Velvet Cocoon's first serious album. Not only just because the song titles don't have references to the word grim in every single track, but because now the songwriting is a lot more matured. Whereas Dextronaut, it was really straightforward and sloppy with its guitar riffs and blast beats that it really didn't have any sense of personality other than it's just black metal. Yet with Genevieve, it's a lot more defined and fleshed out as it puts more attention to detail now on ambience, atmosphere, and textures, that you're really there now to absorb the very minimalistic rawness that you would get in black metal. Even the vocals are changed up a bit as they're more back in the mix to create like another layer of like dark ambience whenever he utters out any of his shrieks, that I feel like for fans of more of the raw ambient side of black metal, this will definitely appeal to you. Outside of the music of this album, this is where lies and plagiarism goes full force. For starters, the album name, Genevieve, December Star Embassy Volume 2. Where's Volume 1 and where are the other volumes? As supposedly this is part of the December Star Embassy trilogy. That's the thing, they never came to light, and supposedly they just never existed, even though there are rumors that they were like fan-made.
That's why it's like we don't know like everything that's true or not. Like it's almost as if they wanted to create this.
Looking at things, and I'm like, oh, what's going on?
They just wanted to create this like collage of information around them and Mysterium. Like even now we say to ourselves like how much is real, how much is not. Again, it just can't be overstated. It's like crazy how much they've managed to keep under wraps and managed to use bait and switch tactics to, you know, like with Guinevere, they're like, yeah, that's not really our record, it's plagiarized, but yet there's no one claiming that it's plagiarized. It's supposedly a real thing, but they're trying to pretend it's not.
That they're still doing it.
And then they'll take someone else's work and say, yeah, this is our real record. And it's like really not their record.
December Star Embassy like dubs that they created for the band that Velvet Cocoon would later on use as legitimate albums, they were later on be discarded as fan-made. Even with the re-release of Dextronaut that would include December Star Embassy, it's not part of the trilogy, it's just 3 long ambient tracks. So it's odd of them to release an album like this and only start off with the second volume of a trilogy. The picture used for this album artwork, the tree in the fog, is a photo from Mark Singh.
So he's saying they're starting with a second album of trilogy. I mean, like, let's be real. Like, Star Wars, they started out with episode 4. Like, they didn't give us 1 through 3. I mean, it's not unheard of for artists. I don't want to say bands, but like.
Well, bands work a little differently though. They usually like Overkill. Whenever for the Freezer records they put in, the last song was always like you had like the Nightmare, and then had Nightmare 2, and then Nightmare 3. So they were always kind of building upon a certain theme. Now, these guys, again, everything is just about misdirection, bait and switching, and
whether that's what it might be about. Like, that might be their thing. Maybe they are. Maybe they're Death Clock.
It could be.
Who was never listed in the credits. And the 17.5-minute
The artist.
closer, Bet Noir, is a slowed-down version of Matthias Grasso's song called Soham. During this time in 2004, Velvet Cocoon would start doing interviews. Two I just referenced earlier would be the interview that they did for Metal Crypt and Full Moon Productions. I have links provided in the description to where you can check them both out. And in those interviews, they're always...
I'm curious because they say Full Moon Productions.
I know.
But the first thing I'm thinking of is the movie that does. Oh, I think it is them. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Let's see. 801 1834. That's them. Holy fuck.
What? Give me the scoop.
All right, so Full Moon is a movie production, very famous one that does the Puppet Master films, the Subspecies films. They also have a music part of it. Now, it says their music part is closed now, but they do have bands, a lot of black metal bands under that production company. So they were Burzum's on there for one of their records.
So at one point, Full Moon was producing
records.
Wow.
A lot of black metal stuff. And Velvet Cocoon was one of them. That's pretty wild. I did not know that. That's something new to me. I did not know they were actually doing that. Pretty cool.
Asked about the layout for Genevieve, which was released in 2004, and it's quite similar to the vinyl reissue that they did in 2007. Because in the layout for these albums, you'll come across the word dextromethorphan, which hopefully that shows up a little bit on camera. And this is in reference to the drug that they partake in whenever they're writing songs or performing live. Reading upon that, you would think, so...
I'll look it up. Dextromethorphan.
Give me a second. Dextromethorphan? Okay. Oh! It used to be in Robitussin.
Hallucinogen?
They don't have it anymore in Robitussin. That is hysterical.
Maybe that's why everybody was doing Robitussin. I want some tussin.
I want the tussin. It's just like completely different genre, but the drink scissor was cough medicine with grape juice. And then there's
It's called scissor?
Scissor. Sipping on some scissor.
Never.
Okay, so this is, again, back during when this is happening. These rap artists, and it was... this is hysterical because one of my coworkers at my old job when we were working on the ship, he's like, have you ever heard of, I forgot what the type of rap it was. And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, these rappers, they create music that's supposed to sound like you're on scissor. And I'm like, shut up. Scissor is like grape juice and cough medicine mixed together. And these rappers. So for them to be saying that they're making metal on cough medicine, which the cough medicine, the dextromorphin, it's not available the way it used to be. Like it used to be, and it was a better cough medicine because you would be able to sleep, but it like slows you down kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I'm listening to these albums that my coworker was playing while we're working, and I'm like, this is insane, because it just was like, if you've ever seen a movie when like everything kind of goes in slow motion, that is exactly what it sounds like. But I wasn't getting that from Velvet Cocoon. I wasn't getting like they were having like a full like slow motion kind of meltdown. I was feeling that they're more like you were saying, like more ambient, more like trippy, but not like my entire body is slowing down, because that's what dextromethorphan will do. It kind of like puts you to sleep. That's the whole idea. That's why.
Well, that's what tussin was. So tussin would make you sleepy, but if you force yourself to stay awake, it became like a drug, and you would be dizzy or hallucinating and stuff like that. It's kind of a trippy experience.
So maybe that's what they were doing. They were taking it and like forcing themselves to stay awake.
Yeah, that's basically what you're doing.
Interesting.
Velvet Cocoon has played live, so there's got to be video footage out there of them performing, showcasing that they are a legit band, that this is real and not fabricated. And when you search up online Velvet Cocoon live, you get a whopping 0 results. What's odd though is reading upon the interviews more when Velvet Cocoon, or really at this point I shouldn't say Velvet Cocoon, when Joshua Lobb talks about some of the live performances that they've done for Velvet Cocoon, is that they always state that they performed in Portland, Oregon in a warehouse, which doesn't really help like sell the story, because if you're just using like a warehouse in Portland, Oregon, that leaves it very anonymous in terms of the venue that you're playing at. Thus, you can just fabricate the story however Joshua Lobb wants to. Yet, when it comes to the conversation in these interviews of Velvet Cocoon performing live in these warehouses in Portland, Oregon, Joshua Lobb always brings up the fact.
Well, there could be more to that.
But how hysterical is that?
But who knows? Like, again, we don't know anything about them, really.
That Velvet Cocoon played with a band called the Werewolves of Venice, a black metal band I've never heard of before. And that's because no one's ever heard of that band. The Werewolves of Venice is a completely made-up band, fabricated most likely by Joshua Lobb. Because in that Velvet Cocoon archive page that I talked about earlier, where it documented all of the hoaxes, is that the Werewolves of Venice was a made-up black metal band that supposedly has this demo tape out there that only has like 66 copies, yet it's estimated that there's even fewer copies when the hoax was revealed for it to be fake. So the Werewolves of Venice' sole purpose for its existence within the spectrum of the lore of Velvet Cocoon is to be this opener band, to make it seem like when Velvet Cocoon announced
a cassette.
But that's the thing. Is it legit? Is it somebody could be selling you nothing but somebody else's work, or it could be a whole lot of nothing?
No, but it could be what he's saying, that the Velvet Cocoon likes to plagiarize things. The Werewolves of Venice are from the UK, released in 2007.
But is it trusted?
I don't know.
Is that they played a show a few years ago. It was with these other bands to make it look authentic, which again, it was just fabricated, most likely like everything else within the Velvet Cocoon history. It's also stated in the Full Moon Productions interview that when it comes to Velvet Cocoon live performances, they'll self-mutilate, drink each other's blood, defecate on each other. Performances go on for over 2 hours. Sometimes people will attack each other in the crowd. Even during one point, a 10-year-old girl dressed in cloak held a torch, and that being the only sense of light.
Yeah, it's pictures that never happened for me.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think they stole the name from another band. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the Werewolves of Venice exist as a small band from 2007
somebody might have taken that from them. Someone might have read that review and said, you know what, that's a cool name, we're going to take that. It's fake anyway, so we're going to have it now for a real band.
We are the light of a full moon split tape. Werewolves of Venice. Hold on. Another plagiarism hoax from Josh.
Yep.
Oh,
because if I type in Werewolves of Venice, it comes straight to Velvet Cocoon. So yeah,
out of England. Got him.
So Josh just saying, yeah, we played with these guys, so secretly it's really me on the other band.
And so he's just like,
he's just creating his own world, and it's exactly like the dude from that doc
that people had when they performed for some reason I don't understand. To even, I believe, Joshua Lobb and one of the promoters got arrested after a show. All just chaos seems like it ensues. And what's odd about that is that during this interview, Joshua Lobb also states that he tried getting a DVD released of one of their shows because he has a friend who's really good at creating menus for DVDs, and that just never came to light. So really reading upon all of this, mind you, this is the Full Moon Productions interview, the label that they're signed to, it kind of just comes off like a creepypasta that's meant to hype up this band, that it's just some of the most, unhinged black metal that exists. And in the Metal Crypt interview, they ask upon one of their previous members, a drummer who goes by the stage name of SKV. How did he pass away? And supposedly by Joshua Lobb is that SKV passed away because he was very drunk one day and fell off a cliff. And they don't think about or mourn his death because SKV was a very hateful, misanthropic person and he wouldn't want that. Which it's like, what? Regardless of what kind of person he was with his overall outlook on life, that was a previous band member, somebody you worked with and clearly got along with if you were willing to make music with him. Why are you just disregarding his life just so carelessly when he lost it so erratically? That doesn't really make sense. And it's really suspicious too that when they talk about this previous member, they go by his stage name, SKV, and not his real name. Believe it or not, I'm nowhere even close to discussing all of the lies attached with Velvet Cocoon. Because another one that people typically bring up is with the interview that they did for Chronicles of Chaos in 2005. Joshua Lobb describes that he used an instrument called a diesel harp, something that he made up all of his own, which is a motorized guitar that was amplified and used underwater, and that's how it created the sounds and textures and ambience that you would hear on the album Genevieve, which, not like I need to tell you this, was completely made up and a complete hoax, and there was never a diesel harp used on Genevieve. But still, it's like, what kind of a lie is that? It just keeps getting wilder and wilder the more and more I read into this band. Then there's the rumor that was spread around that Velvet Cocoon was made up of a little over a dozen members, and out of these 15 to 12 members affiliated with Velvet Cocoon, some of them were part of the Earth Liberation Front, which is a eco-terrorist group that fights against the exploitation and destruction of the environment. Taking into account most of what I've talked about in the past handful of minutes, from Velvet Cocoon supposedly being a band that never has any live footage of them playing, to supposedly there's 15 to a dozen people affiliated.
His final thoughts. Are you ascertaining that this man might be saying that Velvet Cocoon is 100% a hoax?
Well, he's putting it out that might be a possibility.
I mean, yes, we know we've got some.
That's his point, is that
we've got some real albums that were not plagiarized, but I'm just.
Well, we don't know because, like I said, if Genevieve is someone else's material, but that person whose material it is doesn't even know that Velvet Cocoon exists, they would not know that their own shit was being taken. It might have been some random. Think of Nuno.
Nuno, yeah.
So let's say he created a record years ago, and now obviously he knows who Cocoon is, but he created a music album years ago. But after that one record that he tried to make, he just stopped making music and just stopped worrying about the scene. But this person got a hold of his demo and said, "This is going to be my record, Velvet Cocoon. This is it." And they could easily pass it off. It could be that Josh was like, "Yeah, this is fake. This isn't real. Somebody else's," but that person may not even know. So Wyatt's just saying, because there's so much of this disinformation and misinformation about the band and the debate and switches and everything else that's going on, we don't even know if these records they put out are actually theirs. We just assume that because no one's come back and said that's my shit. They're not. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Wyatt.
With it, a part of this, again, eco-terrorist group that's never been confirmed, nor their identity's ever been confirmed, you really start questioning now, is Velvet Cocoon a band or a one-man project? Because Joshua Lobb seems to be the only individual ever talking, even though there are interviews like the Chronicles of Chaos interview that has another member, that being the stage name of LVG. Her real name supposedly is Angela. This makes people start questioning if Angela, the supposed legit second member, is real. Because in every band photo with supposedly Angela in it, you can clearly tell that it's a different woman, a different model, making people really question now that Angela is fabricated and Joshua Lobb, again, is the only real legit person that's ever been affiliated with Velvet Cocoon from the get-go. For an added bonus, there's also been rumors that Joshua Lobb was committed into an insane asylum. Obviously, as you can tell by the track record of this band, more than likely it's a hoax.
The
just
fact
like
that they've done nothing
else.
since 2009.
But getting back on track with the music of Velvet Cocoon, I know I went on a very big deviation away from that for a while, which is kind of impossible not to. But in 2005, they would release their third full-length album, North Suite. Musically speaking, this is debatably the most ambient-driven out of all the Velvet Cocoon releases that have actually been released to the public. I state this because even though this is considered to be a full-length album, according to the band, this is more of like a compilation of 2 unreleased demos that are part of like the 15 plus releases that they've never put out. Regardless, what you get here is just some excellent high quality raw lo-fi ambient black metal, as there's 2 ambient tracks and 6 black metal tracks all together here that I feel like it's just as enticing and just as engaging as really anything you would want in this style of music. Again, for people who are really looking for more of the atmospheric and texturally driven styles of black metal, Velvet Cocoon hits it out of the park, honestly, once again with their songwriting here. The only other thing worth mentioning with this album, unsurprisingly, is that there's a lot of lies attached with it. Most of it, however, being just solely the credits affiliated with this album in terms of who did the album artwork with photography to who is doing some of the songwriting on this album and other credits. All are fabricated, all are people that never attributed to this album, and I just find it very odd, even at this point, Joshua Lobb, who's clearly the only person doing anything with Velvet Cocoon, always makes it seem like Velvet Cocoon is like this collective of people when it's always just him doing everything. Then in 2009, we would get the final full-length album by...
Homeboy's got a point. He really does. Like, you know, he has no other members. He's probably fabricating any other members' existence or names in existence. And we know a lot of one-man bands, but he probably is trying to make it a bigger thing than what it really is. So,
yeah.
By Velvet Cocoon, titled, and hopefully I say it somewhat correctly, P.A. Opal Power Part 33. This is the most tried and true, stripped down, serious Velvet Cocoon album that you can listen to. It's nothing terrible, but it really doesn't extend its reach like albums prior to it, as it's just really straightforward, mid-pace, lo-fi, raw black metal, and that's really it. The only other thing to point out here that is interesting is this is the only Velvet Cocoon release that legitimately has an additional person playing on it that's not just Joshua Lobb, as there's guest vocals by James Harmon, who is a real individual who was a part of other black metal bands like Snowfall and Blight, who sadly passed away in 2017 from a heroin overdose. But yeah, as it stands, this is the only legit Velvet Cocoon album that actually had another person working on it. Shortly after this album's release, Velvet Cocoon discontinued, their website was taken down, and supposedly the 15 plus demos and releases that they had ready to release to the public never saw the light of day. Although in the same year of 2009, what rose from the ashes of Velvet Cocoon was a new project done by Joshua Lobb that titled Claire Cassis. It would only be a year after, in 2010, where they would release the debut full-length album for Claire Cassis. And what's interesting, as Joshua Lobb describes it in one of the interviews that's thankfully archived by the Velvet Cocoon archive website, is that Claire Cassis is a continuation, or basically the same thing as Velvet Cocoon, only it has a more pop-oriented sound, which you can definitely tell in some aspects, as the production value is definitely more compressed. It's not as harsh or dissonant as Velvet Cocoon. yet it still maintains like the essence and atmosphere and rawness that you would expect from this style of music. It's just the guitar riffs as well are a bit more melodic and have more harmonizing passageways with it that adds to that pop flavor they're going for. Add to the fact too, I got to give it up to Joshua Lobb here as he finally found an actual member that doing drums, his name being Dan Marvin. So cool to see that at least he's being truthful on that aspect. As of recently, there hasn't been any new releases or news regarding Joshua Lobb with any of his music projects like Claire Cassis or Velvet Cocoon. However, back in 2021, it was stated that Velvet Cocoon has been reignited and reformed. And the reason being as to why there was such a long period of like a decade of nothing happening with any of Joshua Lobb's music projects is because during that time, believe it or not, he started a perfume fragrance of his new company called Slumber House. But the most recent news that we got with Joshua Lobb is back in 2000.
Slumber House.
I think you need to order it.
What is it fucking laced with? What?
LSD.
No, the shit that people use to like. What the fuck is it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. I cannot think of it. Where you would, you know.
Oh, huff. Like if you're gonna knock somebody out.
Yes.
Chloroform.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it laced with Slumber House chloroform? This is the best kind of perfume. Oh my God.
2001, that same archive page I've been talking about, Velvet Cocoon Archive, somehow got in contact with Joshua Lobb to conduct their own interview, which again, I'll have links provided to that website, which they're basically, you know, as I stated, took every little minute detail you can think of a hoax that Velvet Cocoon did and archived it on that page, which there's too much to cover in just one video, but it's really impressive how they gathered up all that information. But with the latest news on that website, again, they conducted an interview and got in contact with Joshua Lobb. And it's really interesting how they went right to the point with a lot of these questions, asking if he regrets any of this, what he thinks about it, and if he's continuing on any projects. And again, he states that he's continuing Velvet Cocoon, even though it's back in 2021. Here we are now in 2025, and still nothing has happened. And that a lot of it's off to the side, mainly because he's focused with his perfume fragrance with Slumber House. Adds to the fact, too, when it comes to all.
Well, look it up. Just look up Joshua Lobb fragrance.
Slumber House. Hold on. I want to know about this. I might need to buy it. Maybe I'll knock people out with it. Hold on. Slumber House.
Zather. That was the band I was talking about with the guy I did a collab with Sono, the guy from Zather.
Slumber House Josh Lobb. Josh Lobb is an independent self-trained parfumer based in Portland, Oregon. Hold on. This might be a fucking hoax too. Slumber House was born out of a collective of artists. Oh, god damn it, pop-ups. And a desire to create a variety of items for a certain demographic. Lobb was in charge of fragrances while other members would focus on clothing, art, etc. Eventually, the other members of the collective went their separate ways, leaving Lobb with the fragrance line. Lobb created fragrances by experimenting in the early days. Slumber House fragrances were sold individually by Etsy, but his creations quickly began to attract the attention of fragrance lovers. All right, so there was Bach, Black Greve, Gic, Kist, Monde, New Cibet, Norn, or Peach and Olive, Sedan, Cibet, Sixes and Sevens, and Sova. Okay, great. So where do I buy it? Etsy? Do I have to go on Etsy?
All of the music that he released, he doesn't regret any of it, which I totally get because it's all really great stuff. The albums, the music by Velvet Cocoon, regardless of what you think of all of the hoax, plagiarism, and lies attached with it, the music itself, honestly, is very well done. And I'm glad to see that he at least acknowledges that he's a really good songwriter.
Slumber House or Extract de Parfum selling on eBay for $360. So maybe this was kind of a hoax, but he made some stuff and
yeah, there was like limited to kind of like you would get for a limited album, just only so many were made. So now that
he was selling them at one time via Etsy, took off, and Slumberhouse became his own personal fragrance brand.
And it shows on these albums. But when it comes to the lore and all the stories that he made up, he does agree that he took things a little bit far. But he's impressed by the fact that how much people really dived into the stories, really trying to deconstruct everything that he supposedly did with Velvet Cocoon.
That's really the most intriguing thing. Like, it doesn't matter how you feel about him and what he was doing. It's that he got away with it and basically made his name through all the controversy and everything else. Because like
now I'm starting to think his shit is fake. On like, here's Slumberhouse Gray is selling for $579 on eBay.
It could be just water. Like, I would never trust this guy with anything.
Slumberhouse Ultra Rare Mond. Like, I'm wondering again, like, if he is the person selling. Oh wait, on Mercari, he could have this whole like network of hoaxes going on.
Yeah, that's part of the mystique.
He's just impressed that he has a fan base, regardless if you like him or not personally, to do all of this, which I find quite interesting. And again, it plays into, I don't know, like this performance art almost in a way with the persona of Velvet Cocoon. Because as I stated earlier in this video, yeah, it got people talking, just like when I talked about Silencer or Stalag. These like stories that are fabricated that you attach with a project, it can't help but make people talk about it, even if it's completely fake. Personally, how I look at Velvet Cocoon with the stories and lore attached with it, is it full of lies and fabricated to all hell? Yeah, 100%, absolutely. The fans have figured it out, even Joshua Lobb has admitted to that. But the end result of it is it got people to talk about Velvet Cocoon. It got people to listen to Velvet Cocoon. Because I'll admit it again, the music of Velvet
stuff is one bottle per household sold out. One bottle per household sold out. And these are small sample sizes selling for $180 a piece. So I'm telling you, this stinks too.
Cocoon, all of their albums are great. They're worth checking out for people who enjoy lo-fi, raw black metal with a lot of attention to detail with texture, ambience, and atmosphere. This is for you. I enjoyed it. Hell, it's the reason why I bought the album at my local record store about 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah, the music is one thing, but the story got me to notice them. And while, yes, the story is over the top as all hell, as I was kind of like eye-rolling and giggling, talking about all the story and lore attached with it, again, it plays into the mystique of it. So I do feel like people will find some enjoyment with it, because as weird as this sounds, I would argue all of that was like a form of like performance art, but on the internet. Sure, it resembles something of like a creepypasta, but again, it got people talking about it. Because here we are now in 2025, I've been getting comments for a while wondering if I'll ever do a video about Velvet Cocoon. And here I am right now making that video, 15 years after their last release, and people are still talking about it. So something worked there, and they used it to their advantage. And that'll do it for this video, guys. Like always, everything I talked about will be in the link down below in the description. Again, definitely check out the Velvet Cocoon archive webpage if you want all the little details about this project, from all the lies and fan-made albums that were made that Velvet Cocoon supposedly used. I know there's a lot. It was just way too much to talk about each individual thing in one video, but definitely check that out if you want to know more about it. And again, as I stated, definitely listen to Velvet Cocoon, regardless of what you think of like these just out-of-pocket stories attached with it. It's just really well done black metal. And other than that, like always, guys, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.
Yep. Be sure I'll be giving the link to the video and his website, YouTube. So be sure to give him a like and subscribe, guys. Did a good job on that.
Yeah, and
Actually, go over to the CD rack and the fourth one in the middle, the fourth row down. You should actually find Velvet Cocoon in there. To the right. Yeah, it should be in alphabetical order, so it should be kind of going there by V's. It might be on the third shelf, but it should be in.
Nirvana, Nevermore.
Is that in the middle?
Oh, yes.
The metal is just on the first two, I think. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I went all the way over. All right. Well, you come back here and you talk to them a little bit. I'm going to see if I can find it.
Okay. So
We'll switch.
when they started talking about perfume, my little head started just researching. And again, interesting exchange I had with the owner, of Slumber House. I wrote Slumber House this email. Would it be possible to get a sample of your fragrances sent to my house? I can pay shipping. Also, I'm wondering if you're familiar with the metal band Alagok from Portland, seeing as how they're named after seeing as they're named after an aromatic wood and cite the smell of wood smoke as a musical influence. You might be interested in their work or them yours. I'm curious what would happen when the worlds of pseudo black metal and perfumery meet. They even burn aromatic wood during their live performances in order to enhance the atmosphere of the show. And then response from Josh, what is your shipping address? I'm mostly into really raw black metal, anything with a dissonant and ghostly atmosphere. I'm aware of a Gallic, although not very familiar with them, only heard a couple of albums. The perfume I make, called Norn, was actually inspired by the Ulver album Bergtat. I think the genre of black metal and the world of niche perfume go hand in hand. I'm glad you share the sentiments. And the guy is commenting. He says, I never did get those samples.
So, yeah, so I do have the record on CD, as you can see. Full Moon Productions.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just because Wyatt pointed it out, is look what's on the black.
I can't read it.
And I'm trying to get it. It's the drug that they were taking. It's the same thing as the vinyl he has. It has the same thing written on the inside. So yeah, it's a very interesting band. I know this is not a traditional classic reflection in terms of going song by song, but because the history of the project is so interesting and controversial, I thought this would be kind of cool to do a special reaction to the video.
Elusive Desire, selling Slumber House perfume for $400 on Etsy.
He's probably stealing money from people.
That's what it sounds like. Slumber House or Extrait de Parfum, $355. Slumber House Mon Extrait de Parfum, $420.
Yeah, if people aren't getting it, then
like I'm just blown away that he's taken his hoax to a whole new level.
Well, anyway, we're gonna play one more track from Genevieve, and we'll come back and close it out, and then yeah, we'll give our final thoughts about it also. This is P.S. Nautical.
I like that.
Could have used the last song, which was like 18 minutes long.
I think you
She's like, you could have played a minute of it, and I would have gotten the point.
So this is what I'm talking about. This is not what I like. I feel like the first song had a lot more atmosphere and ambience and a lot more to offer. And if you would have cleaned up the first song, it would have tickled my fancy, so to speak. But this last song, no.
Yeah,
No.
but some of those songs are similar to P.S. Nautical. I mean, but he was always doing some different things within it. Like the Avalon Polo had some little bit ambient in there. So some of them were a little bit more like the North Suite is full of ambient stuff, which is probably why it did very well for the most part. But, you know, it's still a cool record. But, you know, again, like I don't have much desire to really revisit this all that often. But
It's cool to
as
have.
Wyatt said, it's the story itself is bigger. It's more larger than life than the actual music. I mean, the music is fine, but
This dude is
it's
just
the way that he went about getting attention for himself that's been the biggest part of it.
I cannot with this guy. I cannot at all.
So yeah, obviously now that we've moved into our new place, I'm hoping to do this a little more regularly, once a month with Neko, like we were trying before. But things were pretty chaotic before, so we had to
We're
get
kind of
situated.
settling in. I part of my day today is going to be going through some more boxes.
The never-ending boxes.
It just blows my mind. We lived in an 890 square foot house. Where did all this shit come from? And now we have 2,400 square feet. And I'm like,
Now we're just building more shit.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed this. Please give us your comments and, you know, what you think about all this, especially if you're in the metal fan genre. And
Or if you're a fragrance fan and you've ever.
she's really stuck on that fragrance. Like, she's really pissed. I think she wanted to really test it out.
But for me, it's proving how much of a hoax that music can be. If you can hardly get your hands on the fragrance either, the same thing. Like, yeah, he has a physical copy of a CD, but there's supposedly like 15 other demos out there.
Mhm.
And
again, like, you know, they say this is fake, but let's say again that this is music created by somebody else that just doesn't know this band exists. So, you know, one day that dude could be like, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to go back and revisit some black metal. And he comes across this. He's like, wait a minute, that's my demo. What's it doing on this?
yeah, how does this guy have my shit? Where
But
did
yeah,
it
who
come
knows?
from?
That's the lore and the mythology behind Josh and Velvet Cocoon. So yeah, hit the like and subscribe button.
Give us
We
your
are
thoughts.
DJ Nubis and DJ Neko, and we will see you next time on the Metal Terminal Podcast. Adios.
You see me for you.